right, class, we're back at the fun. I wanted to go through a couple things real quick because I've been getting a lot of questions about where to find stuff. So I want to make sure you guys have all the answers you need and all the resources you need. Obviously, always email me with any questions. But here's our Google Classroom. If you go to classwork, that's where I'm going to post the assignments. I've also posted this thing called Unit 8 Outline. That is basically our outline for the rest of the year. All right, so it's got the dates on there. So right now, if you see, we just did lesson 2 on Monday. So tomorrow we're doing lesson 3 on Wednesday of this week. It's not due until May 4, but this is homework 4, so we're skipping homework 3. And then there's also some Khan Academy problems. There's actually 4 problem sets for this of 4 problems each. You know, those are recommended. I hope that you guys do them, but once again, I'm only gonna, as long as you turn in one assignment between either the Khan Academy or the regular book work, I'll give you credit for doing the homework. And that's, that's it. It's just completion. That's your grade. If you do it, you get an A. If you don't, you get an incomplete. So just hopefully there's, if you have any questions, feel free to keep emailing me, but I want to make sure that I go over where to find everything. Here's also a link to the packet right here. You just click on that, you'll get the packet as long as you're logged into your FHPS account. Also the packet's on our website. So if you go back to our website and you click on, our course, Algebra 2 Concepts, and click on Unit 8, you're going to find this is where I'm posting the videos as well as the answers to the note packet and the note packet itself. And then, I'm also posting things on Google Classroom. So if you go to the stream, I know it's a little redundant, but I'm also posting everything here. Okay. So the notes, the videos, everything. So you basically have everything on both platforms. You have everything on Google Classroom, and you have everything on our Google website. On the website, though, there is a calendar as well. So, here's another thing that you guys can use. I don't know if you guys have looked at this, but I know we've been using it all year long. So Wednesday, we're doing Unit 8 Homework 4. And it tells you what numbers to do here as well. So that might be helpful. So we're not asking you to do them all here because we skipped Lesson 3, which is complex fractions. So I hope this helps, but we'll get started right now with Unit 8 Homework 4. All right, now since this is all review, all stuff we've learned, there's nothing new to learn here. So don't feel like you have to watch this video. I'm going to do a couple of these problems just so you guys get some more teaching, basically, some more explanation. If you need that, then stay tuned. If you don't, then feel free to start the homework because there really is nothing new here. But I'm going to skip around and do some of the harder problems. So number 2 here, we need to factor these. If you recall, the first step was we factor these the way that we've been factoring. Now these ones are a little bit tricky to factor. So first let's try to pull out the greatest common factor from the numerator. There's nothing to pull out of each term. So we're going to have to factor that hopefully into 2 linear factors. In the bottom, same thing. Try to pull out a 2, for example, but there is no greatest common factor between these 2 terms. So we are going to try to factor that into 2 linear factors as well. So I'm going to try to factor by grouping with this one. What we did is so I'm doing the numerator first. We multiply the first and the last term together. That gives me the 36. So you need 2 things that multiply to be 36, and you need 2 things that add to be the middle term, negative 12n. And I'm going to keep the n squared here as well. So you can focus on the numbers if you want, but this is how we did factor by grouping. So we need 2 things that multiply to be the first and the last multiplied together, and 2 things that add to be the middle term. So now that's what we're going to try to find those 2 numbers. This is the part that you need to get out your calculator and sort of think about what two things would multiply to be 36n squared and add to be negative 12. And as you try these, negative 6n and negative 6n work great. So those are the 2 that you'll settle on if you just try. There's not that many factors, obviously. Try 9 and 4. Try 6 and 6. 18 and 2. But you'll settle on these 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 4n squared and replace this middle term, negative 12n, with these 2. So negative 6n and then minus 6n. And then the last term is still there. Okay. So 4n squared. Now I'm going to group together. I'm going to group together these first 2 terms. And I'm going to pull out a 2, n. And then I'm left with 2n minus 3. Okay, so I factored out the greatest common factor from the first 2 terms. Now I'm going to focus on the second 2 terms. I'm going to pull out, in this case, a negative 3, and that leaves me with 2n minus 3. All right, Now I'm going to pull out this number, this 2n minus 3. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. So 2n minus 3, and I'm left with 2n minus 3. What's left over is this and this when you pull the 2n minus 3 number out front. All right, so it's just 2n minus 3 squared. All right, 2n minus 3. I'll write it as 2n minus 3 times 2n minus 3 for now. All right, now we're going to do the same exact thing to the bottom one. All right, so I'm going to go through this one a little bit faster. So I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 54n squared, and I need them to add to be 15n. Okay, so I need to multiply to be negative 54 and add to be 15n. So get out your calculator and start finding the factors of 54. What two things multiply to be 54 that when you add them you get 15n? All right, so you'll find if you just divide, I always start by dividing 54 by 2, by 3, and so on. When you divide it by 3, you get 18 and 3. So 18 and 3 multiply to be negative 54. So that's what we're going to do. Positive 18 and negative 3n. That way, when you add them, you get 15n, and when you multiply them, you get negative 54n squared. Okay, so once again, replace that middle term. So we have 2n squared plus 18n minus 3n minus 27. Factor out a 2n from the first two, you're left with n plus 9. Factor out a negative 3 from the second two, you're left with n plus 9. Factor out that n plus 9, and then you're left with 2n minus 3. So this factors into 2n minus 3 times n plus 9. I switched up the order here so that it doesn't matter, but you get this. These two terms cancel, or these two quantities cancel, and you're left with this is your final answer, 2n minus 3 divided by n plus 9. Okay, let's try one of these multiplying and dividing ones. I'll do the hardest one, I guess, here, number 6, so we can give you some, I guess, semi-challenging ones. Okay, so I'm going to start, there's different ways you can start, but I'm going to start with this right here. I'm going to start by factoring, like we do, try to simplify. So I'm going to pull out a 30 from the numerator, and I'm going to pull out a c squared from the numerator, and I'm left then with just a c here, and I'm left with minus 2, right? 30 times negative 2 is negative 60. Okay, and then the bottom I still have the 3c. Now divided by, I'm going to change that to multiplication by the reciprocal. So I'm going to change that to multiplying by 2c cubed minus 16c squared plus 24c. And now this 3 goes into this 30 10 times. This c cancels with this c, so you just have an exponent of 1 now there. And I'm guessing this factors. So that's what we're going to need to do next. But let's write out what we have and simplify it. So it's 10, 1c times c minus 2. And then that's going to be divided by basically this right here, right? Because I'm multiplying by the reciprocal. So that's going to go into the denominator right here. But first I'm going to try to factor it. So if I pull out a 2 and a c, I'm left with c squared minus 8c, and then plus 12. All right, so I'm guessing that factors some more. So let's try to factor into two linear factors now, c, and two things that multiply to be 12 and add to be negative 8. Let's do negative 6 and negative 2. So now the bottom is 2c times quantity c minus 6 times quantity c minus 2. And the c minus 2's cancel, the c's cancel, 2 goes into the 10 5 times. And my final answer is just 5 divided by c minus 6. Box that. Okay, next section is adding and subtracting fractions. Let me try to find one of these that's fairly challenging. This was homework 2. I guess I'll try number 10. All right, so I'm going to try to factor these, right, like we always do. So let me try to factor the top first. I need two numbers that multiply to be 51 and add to be 2. Now, there's no two numbers that I could find that multiply to be 51 and add to be 2, or negative 51 and add to be 2. But just to double check and just review from what we covered earlier this year, if you go to your calculator or just whatever one on that Ms. Begaris shared on the internet, and you go to graph this, right, like we did, and you look at the graph, there's two real zeros, so the discriminant gives you a positive number underneath that square root in our quadratic formula. but it looks like that 0 is not a whole number, it's irrational. And we can check that by doing second calculate. And if you want here, I guess I'll do 0. And I'll scroll to the left of the 0, hit enter, scroll to the right of the 0, hit enter for the third time, and you get this number which looks irrational. It's not a whole number, which means we can't factor it, right? In order to factor this polynomial, we need two whole numbers that multiply to be 51 and add to be 2, which we don't have. So top doesn't factor. The bottom probably factors though. Let's give that a try. We have p squared plus 2p minus 51 remaining in the top and the bottom. Two things that multiply to be negative 27 and add to be negative 6. Let's do 9 and 3. So we'll do negative 9 and positive 3. We need a p. All right. That adds to be negative 6 and multiplies to be negative 27. So now we have 4 over p plus 3. So we see this common factor p plus 3. That's in both fractions, but I need the p minus 9. So I'm going to have to multiply top and bottom of this one by p minus 9 in order to get now a common denominator. Okay. So now the top becomes p squared plus 2p minus 51, and then minus 4 times p. I'm gonna distribute right now. So so it becomes negative 4 p, and then negative 4 times negative 9 is a positive 36, and then it's all over this common denominator p minus 9 times p plus 3. Okay, now let's simplify by adding like terms. So I've got a 2p and a negative 4p, that makes negative 2p. So p squared minus 2p, and then I have this negative 51 and this 36, negative 15, and then all over our p minus 9 times p plus 3. All right, now let's see if we can factor the top now, go even further. So two linear factors, two things that multiply to be negative 15 and add to be negative 2. So how about 5 and 3? So we need negative 5 and positive 3. All right, and then all over our p minus 9, p plus 3. And one factor does cancel, leaving us our final answer, p minus 5 over p minus 9. Okay, last up is our complex fractions, which we skipped this lesson. So we're not going to ask you to do this, I guess, and we're not testing you anyway. But, you know, it's good practice. So for those of you looking for some math skills and some math practice, some algebra skills, and you think you're going to go on in math, or like I said, take the college placement test someday to try to eliminate having to take this class again in college, which, like we said in college, it's called intermediate algebra. And it's the last math class you have to take for a business degree. You know, if you want to just get ahead of the game and practice this stuff, then here's how you do this one. And if you don't, just pause the video or stop the video and do what you need to do. But I'm going to solve this one by, instead of dividing by 3x minus 2, I'm going to multiply by this fraction, right? Because multiplying by the reciprocal is the same thing. So I'm going to multiply by x squared minus 12x plus 32 all over 3x minus 2. So now I've gotten rid of what was in the bottom because I'm multiplying by the reciprocal. Right now I'm going to factor like we used to. So I'm going to pull out, in this part, I'm going to pull out a 5. So if I pull out a 5, I'm left with x minus 2. And in the bottom, I still have the x minus 8. And now over here, if I factor, I want two linear factors. So I need two numbers that multiply to be 32 and add to be negative 12. So let's try negative 16 and positive 2. Nope. Negative 8 and negative 4, rather. So we want negative 8 and negative 4. All right. And our x is still there. All right. And then we have in the bottom, I guess, just 3x minus 2. All right. So let's see if there's anything that cancels. It looks like this x minus 8 cancels. And that's pretty much it. So our final answer is 5 times quantity x minus 2 times quantity x minus 4 all over 3x minus 2. And I'll just leave it in factored form, but that is your final answer. And I did make a mistake on this problem, so I'm editing this part. I forgot a 3 right here. And if there's a 3 right here, then this does cancel as well. So I'm left with my final answer of 5 times x minus 4. So my mistake, I missed the number there, and that was a big mistake. Please forgive me. All right, I hope this helps. Like I said, feel free to do the homework and check your answers and email me with any questions. And on Friday, we'll do a Zoom session for anybody who wants to have live discussions about this stuff. I hope I can help. I hope this helps, and I hope you have a fantastic day.